Burglars, what are the best ways to keep you out of my house? Get an alarm system and use these stickers and signs saying that you have one. I'm more likely to skip a house with an alarm system. Don't make it easy for me. Lock your doors, close your windows, and most importantly, lock them. 95% of the houses I have been in, I just walk through the door or climb through an open window. Don't leave tools laying around, that's going to make my job easier. Ladders, saws, drills, sledgehammers, putty knives, etc. All of these make it easier for me to get in your house. Contrary to popular belief, most dogs aren't a problem unless they've been trained to be guard dogs. It doesn't take much to make one friendly. Don't advertise. If you bought an expensive piece of electronic equipment, jewelry, tools, etc., don't brag about it in public, don't leave the trash in sight, and don't post about it on Facebook. Use security hedges under your windows. If your house has rose bushes and your neighbors don't, I'm more likely to try their house first. If it's irreplaceable, don't leave it out in the open. Get a safe for stuff like that and make sure you bolt it down. I'll happily take a safe with me and open it later. Don't live in a nice neighborhood. When I'm looking to steal, I don't go to poor neighborhoods. I go to subdivisions in wealthier areas. Don't assume I'm going to wait until it's dark to rob a place. Between 9 a.m. and noon are the best times to hit. Most everyone's gone to work. Those who aren't are running errands or sleeping. That being said, invest in motion sensor lights. If someone is outside your house at night, this can help. Finally, be suspicious and alert. Is there someone new walking in your neighborhood that doesn't live there? Is someone getting yard care, pest control deliveries outside of what's normal for them? Does the same car keep cruising around at different times? You see, I'll study a neighborhood before I strike. Sometimes I'll spend upwards of a month. I'll note times people leave and arrive. I'll note when, if cops patrol certain areas and when. I'll pay attention to delivery times, mailman times, and various other service people to see when they arrive, what they do, how they're dressed, etc. I'll watch to see who leaves windows open, who forgets to lock their doors, and so on. It doesn't take much time to make a hit and get away either. On average, I spend 8 minutes in a house, rarely more than that. Okay, so what he's saying is to just get a bunch of alarm stickers and 80% of the job is done? Alright. Story 2. If you're in a very studenty areas of the UK cities, when you order a taxi, get it from a slightly different address, like a block of flats with lots of lights on, or a house you know has no one living in it and be waiting outside it, or better yet, get it from outside a supermarket or a pub, etc. In my city, certain cab drivers are in cahoots with burglars and let them know when a house is empty for most of the night because the students are out clubbing, even if they leave a light on, etc. Story 3. Alarm signs are the biggest deterrent. I am going in through your front door. I am not going to check windows or creep into your backyard or any sketchy crap like that. The neighbors calling the cops is really the only danger. I dress nicely in a collared shirt and slacks. I am white and clean cut, fairly good looking, a bit like a police officer. Your dog is useless. There is too much on the line to worry about Fido. I have never been attacked by a dog, but if I was, I look for houses with the least viewpoints from the neighbors. Having an open front porch is your best defense. Park in your garage. Parking in front of the garage is a telltale that there is likely no other car moving in and out of the garage, and the driver is likely at work. I can tell because of the discoloration. Pick up your newspapers. Stop your mail and newspaper if you are leaving town. If I pop the door and an alarm goes off, I will probably leave. Make friends with your neighbors so they know who should be at your house. Going in and someone being home is terrifying. I don't want to hurt anybody, and I certainly don't want to get hurt. Also, the risk for getting caught just went from 3 years to 25. I will run screaming from the frailest old lady. Again, this isn't me anymore, but perhaps it gives you some insight. Stay safe. Story 4. I spent a year and a half in prison after being convicted of multiple residential burglaries. I was caught after a mailman called 911 after seeing me go through a window. I had a pretty good run of burglaries from 2007 to 2008 and haven't done any in 7 years, so technology and times have changed since my spree. Here's how I picked my houses. First, I would generally only go in the daytime during the week. The idea was for the adults to be at work and the kids at school. Second, I would try to find a corner house because it would have at least one side with no neighbors. Third, I went to middle-class neighborhoods close to a community college. I live in a large U.S. city and needed an excuse to be in my late 20s walking around with a backpack. I would stand out too much in wealthy neighborhoods, and poor neighborhoods often have bars on windows because they expect to be robbed. Middle-class people seem to be careless. I often went in through an unlocked back door. Interestingly enough, I never went through the front door. I would always go to the back or side because any fences would provide coverage. Fourth, people think a large dog would be a good deterrent, but I generally avoided those annoying small yapping dogs that never shut up. 5. I often went through a bedroom window whether it was unlocked or not. I am committing a major felony. I didn't care about a broken window. 6. I usually went straight to the master bedroom because that's where the good stuff was. Things a homeowner can do besides armed guards around the clock. First, get a dog that doesn't like strangers. I don't care if it's big or small or threatening or friendly. As soon as one dog barks, the whole neighborhood starts barking and announcing a burglar's presence. Second, cameras, inside and out. I knew a guy who was caught because he walked by someone's webcam inside their house and ended up on the news. Make the cameras visible. If I see a camera, I'm not just moving on to the next house, but I'm going several streets away. 3. Lock the fence and restrict access to the backyard. That's generally where I broke into the house from. 4. Beware of dogs, and security alarm signs and stickers are completely worthless. I once broke into a house through a doggy door. There was no dog home. 5. Try not to have any stools or anything in the backyard. They make climbing through windows easier. Story 5. I once was visiting a female friend of mine who lived in a bit of a crappy neighborhood. At the time, I was working construction and swung by after work. I got to the house and took my size 12 work boots off and left them on the front porch. I tend to carry a pair of flip-flops in my bag and change into those when we hit a patio for some sunshine beers. I ended up forgetting my boots at her place and was in no rush to get them back as I had another pair. Now, I do not know how true this is, but she swears that having a pair of big work boots right by her front door made her safer. I had pretty much forgotten about them as they were on their way out, but she left them right where they were. She had less craziness happen in her front yard, less strangers knocking on her door, and she was not broken into again at that place. Of course, it also could have been the smell. Story 6. Seen a couple of these supposed experts saying your dog is useless? Nonsense. If you have a little yappy dog, that makes sense. My home was broken into several years ago during the middle of the day. I had a lab/GSD mix, like a lot of people would say, nicest dog ever, and so on. I got a call from the cops because someone driving by called the police after seeing a man with a torn shirt running away from our front door. When I got home, the area just inside my front door had what looked like a little dried red liquid on the floor and door. The police said when they arrived, the dog was just lying there staring at the door. They said he barked as they arrived but quickly and easily calmed down. Nothing was taken and only a small table by the door where we put our keys and stuff was knocked over. Long story short, the guy went to the hospital and the cops picked him up as he was leaving. We didn't press charges for breaking in or anything, just let the police handle it and never actually saw the guy. But the police officer told us his face was injured. We figured Pickles had done enough and our lives would be easier to just, move on. Story 7. Serious answer. I did some theft in my youth. I'll leave it at that. Keep in mind, I was no mastermind. When choosing a house besides the obvious signs like a full mailbox and scattered newspapers, I often look for the predictable things people do when they go out of town. Leaving the radio on, the TV, lights, etc. Lots of lights on and a loud TV in the living room at 2 a.m. on a Sunday night in a well-off neighborhood? Okay then. When I found a potential house, I'd ring the doorbell loudly, then run away and watch for any activity. After that, if I felt comfortable, I'd try to get in. If it was too difficult, no problem. Every time I tried to open a window or door, I would move away again for a while and watch for activity. Even if I had to do it in steps. For example, try to open a window by the door, then move away and wait. Come back and try the door, then move away again. I did this because of a fear of alarms that don't make noise. Obviously, if I saw any activity or set off a loud alarm, I would leave. So, you want to keep me out of your house. Don't appear as an easy target, full mailbox, obstructed view of the house from the street. Don't make it easy for me, having strong locks, alarms, motion lights, dogs, etc. I wouldn't bother with any of that. If I do get into your house, don't leave small valuables all over. I often traveled on foot and took things like money, jewelry, and small electronics. Having a safe would help. And I hope that helps. I've changed now, but you can still have your opinion. Story 8. I'm not a burglar, but leave the TV on high when you leave the house. Get a dog, make sure you do the bare minimum like lock all doors and windows and get a basic security system. Basically, just don't make yourself the low-hanging fruit. Also, keep in mind that most robberies are completely random. Not a lot of people will go into a house not knowing if there's anyone inside or anything. Usually, they'll either get a tip or scope out a place for a while. Easiest thing on earth you can do with zero effort, go to eBay and buy a protected by Dyson security or whatever the heck security system, sign that you can stick on your lawn. That will repel 90% of people except maybe if someone you know is the one who robs you. Story 9. All of this is great advice, but the number one way to keep a burglar out of your house is to keep burglars out of your life. 66% of all burglaries are committed by people known to the victim. Sketchy son-in-law, jealous neighbor, substance-fixated daughter, these are the people most likely to burglarize your house. It may be tough to get these people out of your life. Cameras and alarm systems often deter these people. Try to hide information about your whereabouts from them. Don't post your upcoming trip to Belize on Facebook where they can see it. Give the local pawn shop a picture of your sketchy substance-fixated son-in-law. Tell them if he's pawning things, it's probably stolen from you. They may not seem interested, but believe me, pawn shops aren't interested in trouble. They'll send him out the door if he comes in. Story 10. For your windows, please use a fly screen and secure them with bars. They make a lot of noise to break into. The fly screen is also a visible deterrent. Thieves will then target the door. Double doors, doors with bars or metal reinforcements, and solid doors are good. Get some good locks, but this is where the double door is beneficial because it takes longer to bypass. As the door is the most likely entry point since windows are more secure, you should secure it with cameras. Consider having an automated warning system when motion is detected and a way to view the security feed. This way, since the most likely entry point is your door, they'll have two barriers to get through, giving you more time to contact the police. Even if they do get in, they won't have much time. A dog is a good defense against backdoor entry, which is also a vulnerable point in many houses. Place something on a tablet or the radio. Noise is also a good deterrent as it makes people think someone is inside. Redirect calls from your home phone to your mobile phone. This is because potential intruders might check if the house is empty by calling multiple times and hanging up if someone answers. Lastly, be friendly with your neighbors. Talk to them and know your neighborhood. Nothing is better than having people looking out for each other. Thieves are less interested in robbing a highly secured home. It takes time, and the associated risk is much higher than with an insecure house. They will likely look around the block for easier targets. The idea is to prevent your home from looking like an easy target. Even if they choose it, make it seem occupied. If they persist, make it difficult to get in and buy yourself enough time to call the police. No home is ever completely safe. All homes can be broken into. However, because people robbing houses aren't usually highly skilled criminals, they're often just looking for some quick cash. Story 11. Locking your door. Wouldn't believe the amount of people that don't lock their doors. In college, I was stupid. No excuse for my actions as the risk was much greater than the reward. I could have ruined my life going to a top 10 US university. A friend and I would sneak into the freshman dorms at 4 to 5 a.m. in the morning, literally open unlocked doors and loot whatever was laying out in the main room. The way the dorm was set up was that a main room would connect to 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. Electronics, Xbox, PlayStation, laptops, bikes, TVs. We took a 50-inch TV from one room. Awkward as heck walking out of the dorm and a few blocks with that. Textbooks and basically anything we could grab. If you want a college student with a suite and a key, please lock your door as it is not worth the risk. Be safe, everyone, and don't let yourself be a target. Story 12. Not a burglar, but if I were one, I wouldn't target a house with multiple beware of dog signs, or one where I heard a large dog barking. I also wouldn't rob a house in a rural area. They're more likely to own firearms and be willing to use them, and also more likely to have a large protective dog. I also wouldn't target a Hispanic household, even in a good neighborhood. It just seems like a riskier proposition. You never know about potential connections. Story 13. I worked in security, ADT, and here's what I learned about how burglars would case a neighborhood. They'd walk your street looking like a salesperson or someone on official business, very professional, and leave door hangers or other items like flyers. This would often be on the day they planned to target homes. They would walk down on one side of the street and then back up the other, having already been observing the area. What they look for is a block of houses where the hangers are still present. This suggests that no one is home in that surrounding area so that there are fewer potential witnesses. Then, 9 times out of 10, they'll try to enter through the front door. A security system sign will deter them about 90% of the time. If you have a security sign and your neighbor doesn't, guess which house the burglar is more likely to target. Don't let the security system company install your touchpad in a place visible from a window. Whether regular windows or those beside doors, if they can see it and you've left the system off, they can see that too. Getting into a garage is extremely easy, and people often don't lock the door from the garage to the house. I sold many security systems by demonstrating how easily a garage can be entered. Go to your garage door and press firmly towards the top. Does it open enough to see inside? If so, they can break in. With a coat hanger, they can grab the red emergency release cord and up goes the door. So, cut your garage door's emergency string and rope. You have a remote and likely don't need it. Story 14. Allow me to share my experience with burglars. My house was broken into once. The doors were locked. There was a security bar in the sliding glass windows. No tools were left lying around. The garage was locked and the windows were locked. And here's how they did it. They got a pry bar, stuck it under the garage door, and lifted it just enough to get a low-profile hydraulic jack under the door. We know this because the entire mechanism of how a garage door operates was completely broken. After they got their garage door open, they found the door to the house locked. They had already brought tools, so what's one more? They plugged their own reciprocating saw right into the wall in my garage and cut a hole directly into the house. The moral of the story is, if someone really wants to get into your house, there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop them, period. An alarm might help. Keep in mind that most police response times, especially to home alarms, are likely to be slow, and a burglar might know this depending on the area. The alarm triggers at the monitoring company, and the company tries to contact the homeowner first. That could take 3 to 5 minutes. Then the company calls the police. We have a break-in at number, street, NW, and we couldn't reach the owner. The owner isn't home. Depending on the distance to the station, that's another 10 to 30 minutes. After my break-in, it took the police 45 minutes to show up. A determined person only needs a few minutes to assess what valuables are worth taking. If they already know what they're looking for, even less. Try this. Open your front door and walk directly to your TV, PC, safe, and walk directly back. How long did that take you? The police will not arrive that fast. Story 15. When a relative or friend of yours passes away, make sure somebody is staying at the house during the funeral services. My grandmother's house was burglarized during my grandfather's funeral. The funeral had been announced in the paper, most are, and the burglar knew this was a prime time. He finally got his, though. He kept doing it to other people during their funeral. A few weeks later, the police set up a sting, let the house's phone ring without picking it up, and sure enough, the guy broke into the departed's house. The situation escalated, and after a confrontation with the police, he didn't make it. Story 16. Well, there's a variety of things that a top-tier burglar like myself looks for. You can do tons of easy things to make sure we won't even target your house in the first place. First point, the door. A locked door is a sign that you have something inside your house you want to protect. A wide open door means come in or whatever, there's nothing worth stealing in here. So leave your doors wide open so people know that there's nothing to rob from your house. If you can leave your windows open too, then you pretty much guarantee every burglar is going to walk right past your house. To further address this point, make a list and hang it up near your doorstep. On the list are all the items that you absolutely do not have inside your house. But here's the genius part. You actually do have those things in your house. You're simply misleading potential intruders. Quite brilliant indeed. Example, there is absolutely no jewelry in this house, and if there were, the dresser next to the bed would be the last place I were to put it. Next thing is rather simple. If you have a dog, find it a new home. Contrary to popular belief, burglars are actually helped by dogs. Nobody knows how they do it, but they are some kind of dog whisperers. People have reported burglars carrying out stuff with the help of dogs. So if you don't want Fifi to help carry out your flat-screen TV on his back, better rehome him. Other pets aren't as easily convinced to help, but better safe than sorry, so find new homes for those as well. Now, should you get robbed despite all these tips, there are some things you can do to help the police find the thieves. As soon as you notice you've been robbed, it's essential to wipe down any doorknobs, light switches, basically anything a potential intruder could have touched. Wipe over them with some cloth to try and collect some of their DNA left behind when they touched it. Also, a common mistake is calling the police as soon as you realize a robbery. Most criminals often have regrets, and a surprising number of all thieves return these stolen goods within a couple of weeks of taking them. So if you were robbed, wait at least 2 weeks before alerting anyone. As long as everything is quiet, the thief might feel remorse and bring back your stuff. As soon as the police are involved, they're scared off and will not return your stuff. And there you go, 100% foolproof anti-burglary tips from an actual hypothetical burglar. I see what you did there. It's actually kind of smart. Probably a pretty smart burglar too. And if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 17. I'd have thought this would be obvious, but apparently a lot of people out there don't lock their doors because they're in a quote-unquote safe area. Please, lock your doors and windows. I've lived in some less secure areas right next to unlit alleyways. I've seen people watching the house while I'm alone, neighbors have seen people observing it, and others have caught people on camera trying the doors on houses on the street. We haven't had a break-in ever. We use multiple locks on the front door. Our last house also had an extra latch, so even if a lock was forgotten at night, it would be difficult to get in without setting off the alarm. The back door also has locks. The back garden gate has a padlock. There are deterrents on the fence. And we have security cameras and motion sensing lights. All the blinds are closed at night so people can't see inside. There's also a perimeter alarm, so if the windows are touched or the door is open slightly, it will go off immediately, and it's very loud. When we're away for extended periods, family and neighbors regularly check on the house and open the blinds, and there are timers on the lights so they come in on the evening. We also have a dog now, and while he's friendly, he's large and can be quite forceful. I know a lot of people who are very confident about not properly locking their doors or windows like it's something to be proud of. Guess whether it's me or them that's had valuables stolen. Story 18. I can tell you what seemed to work in my neighborhood. There was an incident where someone passed away near my property. The circumstances were unclear, but soon after, a crowd gathered. Rumors started circulating that this person had tried to break into my house and I had defended myself. The story that spread was that I had made an example of him so that no one else would try anything. My neighbors had experienced several break ins and robberies, however, my house remained untouched. I remember being outside when a couple of people walked by, and I overheard one say to the other, "That's the house you don't ever want to mess with, you'll regret it." How significant was the effect? One time, a young person took some money from my wife and me. I spoke with their parents, who returned the money, apologized profusely, and moved away within the week. The person who passed away had a partner who came looking for him. I offered her a place inside my home to wait while the authorities were present. I've also helped out kids in my neighborhood and even cared for one for over a year when he was in a difficult situation at home. I consider myself a kind person. The incident near my property inadvertently seemed to make my house a place that others avoided. Story 19. Not a burglar, but I used to have to enter locked houses for mortgage companies that had been vacated. The number one thing that made my entry easier was French doors. The second was unlocked windows. Most French doors only have latches at the top and bottom of one door with a simple deadbolt in the center. Applying a little pressure to the top and bottom of the other door can expose the latches on the first. Flip those with a key or screwdriver, then you can simply push both doors inward with minimal sound from the deadbolt. It takes very little time. Some have a sliding lock on the inside, but the other door is often still unsecured. Occasionally, you'll find ones that lock properly, but it's quite rare. I'll never own a set. Story 20. My car was entered in around 1 a.m. I was awake, watching a movie at a high volume with my window open. I heard a noise and glanced out to see some figures. It was the middle of summer and very warm, so I wasn't wearing clothes. Upon seeing the figures, I grabbed my decorative sword and rushed downstairs. Bursting out the front door with the sword raised and without thinking about my state, I ran toward them. They turned and ran, and one of them stumbled before getting back up and fleeing down the road. I stood there, my heart racing, taking in the moment. I then looked back at my car. It turned out that the loud movie hadn't deterred them. They had bent my door open, removed my radio, a few games, and my subwoofer, and had started trying to remove my rear lights. The noise I heard was from someone trying to detach the plastic around the light fitting. They could have simply pressed the release button inside the car. They also didn't seem to notice the expensive amplifier attached to the back of a seat or didn't have the right tool to remove it. My bass guitar was found in a nearby garden a short time later. It's hard to conceal a guitar. And my CD collection was left untouched. My lesson learned was, do not leave valuables in plain sight in your car. Story 21. Police officer here. Side doors that lead into the garage from the backyard are the most common entry point, so make sure they are well secured with a deadbolt and a second deadbolt higher up. This makes it harder to kick the door in. Ensure your doors are solid and the trim is reinforced. I put PVC pipes on all my windowsills. It's inexpensive and prevents the window from being easily slid open. They would have to break the glass and then reach in, hopefully leaving evidence. I have my retired police dog in the yard. I have an alarm and cameras inside and outside my house that record on a hidden DVR. This prevents the footage from being lost if the DVR is taken. My alarm system also stores recordings online when triggered. I have high lattice on top of my fences. This makes it harder to hop over, and they will likely break it if they try, drawing attention. These kinds of measures make burglars see your house as a more difficult target and move on. Having a good, watchful neighbor is also helpful. When I'm on vacation, we have my mom park her car in different spots in front and back, turn various lights on, and keep all blinds and curtains shut. Leaving a note on the front door indicating someone might be home can also be a deterrent. Many burglars ring the doorbell to see if anyone is home. If someone answers, they'll often make up a flimsy excuse for being there. Call the police when you see suspicious people or cars. Write down license plates. Let potential burglars know that your neighborhood is alert. Don't announce your vacation plans to people, including neighbors and social media friends. Unfortunately, even acquaintances might share that information. Story 22. Well, firstly, don't move within walking distance of a high school. Dogs help. Security system stickers on windows. Just get the sticker, honestly. It's not like someone's going to kick the door down to call your bluff. Leaving a car in your driveway might lead someone to believe that your place is more trouble than it's worth. A clean home burglary only happens when people aren't home. That's the best case scenario. It's true what they say about bears. I don't have to be faster than the bear, I just have to be faster than you. The same goes for burglary. You don't have to be a fortress, just more of a fortress than your neighbor. Story 23. Not a burglar, but I did live in an area higher in crime. My car was broken into for its seats. All they took were the seats. Anyway, it really bothered me, so I put a security camera with IR LEDs on it that cover the car and area around it, which also had a 2-week DVR. Nothing ever happened again, but it happened to also cover the complex's maintenance area. They love the cameras and offered to buy them when I moved since they hadn't had a single issue since it went up. Apparently, before, it was a regular problem. I think it helps that the IR LEDs are obvious with their faint red glow. Actually, it did help them recover a stolen item once. One of the salvage guys grabbed one of the guys' new grills. The DVR caught it and they got it back. The guy played it off as he thought it was for salvage. Story 24. I'm of the mindset that if someone wants to break into a house, not much is going to deter them unless neighbors are watching. I read a thread a long time ago about a guy who was a pro burglar. In it, he said that he looked for houses with fences and backyards where it was hard to see the back of the house. He also said alarm systems weren't much of a bother because he was in and out in about 5 minutes. It would take at least 2 minutes for the alarm company to call and another minute of the phone just ringing. He said he usually went straight to jewelry and that dogs really made no difference unless they were just straight up ferocious sounding. But most interestingly, he said his number one deterrent was a sticky film material that keeps glass from shattering. I thought that was really fascinating. The biggest obstacle to him was a 0.5 millimeter sheet of clear plastic window tape. Oddly enough, that guy in particular said he never stole wedding bands. Stay classy, burglars. Story 25. Simply make sure your doors and windows are locked. I had a group of friends in high school who would knock on doors to see if anyone was home. If someone answered, they'd say, "Does Jimmy live here?" "No." "Oh, sorry, wrong house." If there was no answer, they'd check the back door or even the front. Most of the time, they were unlocked, so it wasn't technically breaking in, just unlawful entry. Another thing they said was the best time was 10 to 11 a.m. Monday through Wednesday, when most people are at work and unlikely to be home for lunch. I guess that's why I'm always so careful about locking home and car doors and windows all the time. Hope this helps. Stay safe. Oh, also, dogs. If you have a dog, they usually wouldn't even bother. Story 26. Not a burglar, but I was a thief, though I never stole directly from people, just from businesses because in my substance-influenced state, I thought businesses can just get the money back, no problem. You know what would have stopped me? Nothing. When I was using substances, I didn't care. I knew I'd get caught eventually, but all I cared about was getting things to steal to make money. So when you have people like that, there's really not a whole lot you can do to stop it. Also, no, I wasn't one of the cool guys who hacked systems and got a penny off every transaction a store did. I was a petty thief, but knew some guys who did bigger jobs and they were the same way. The only thing that would stop them was handcuffs and a jail cell to get sober in. Substance fixation is a real problem. Please talk to anyone about it if you have a problem. I'm always here, and I know someone on here can find a website or phone number for someone to talk to. Story 27. I was burglared a few months ago. I'm a student, and they took all my school materials, which was a huge financial hit for me just to replace everything. Not to mention what it's done to my anxiety. I'm still quite upset about it. I think the reason my place was targeted was because they saw me leaving that night with a bag of clothes as I was staying at a friend's. So I'm glad I wasn't there, I suppose. I had also just moved in and there wasn't a deadlock on the door. So for anyone without a deadlock, please get one installed on any entrance. They actually broke in through a smashed window, but if I had a deadlock on my door, it would have made stealing my TV and larger items much harder for them, at least. Also be careful when leaving for the night that you don't make it exceedingly obvious. Please, 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 people thinking of robbing places, realize that it's not just a person's belongings you take. You also take their sense of security and personal comfort. While I couldn't afford to replace anything non-essential, it's not the loss of stuff that affects me the most. It's just a very unkind thing to do to another person. Perhaps try to put yourself in their shoes. Story 28. My nephew passed away from brain cancer 4 years ago. He fought it for a difficult year before he passed away at 8 years old. His story was shared in the news, and my brother and his wife organized local fundraisers and a scholarship fund for local kids to play soccer, my nephew's favorite sport. They were quite visible in the media and, as a result, have many Facebook quote-unquote friends. Unfortunately, about a year after my nephew passed, my brother posted some vacation photos on Facebook. Shortly after, someone broke into their house and stole mainly electronics and some other items. Thankfully, my brother backed up all their photos and videos of my nephew to external cloud storage, so those weren't lost. However, someone did steal my nephew's green iPod with all of his favorite music, which his older brother was keeping. It was a terrible thing to do. Story 29. Police officer here. Motion-activated floodlights are a significant help. Keep your bushes and trees trimmed so they don't obscure windows and doors, providing hiding spots. An audible alarm will also usually make them leave when it goes off, but a silent alarm is best if you want them caught. Remember to lock your windows. Many people forget this simple step. Avoid having glass on or near a door, as burglars can break the glass and reach in to unlock it. A large dog that barks when someone approaches the property can also be an effective deterrent. If you're going away, have a trusted friend stay at your house for periods of time to make it look occupied. If you have a sliding door, don't just use a stick as a locking mechanism. It's fairly easy for experienced burglars to overcome. Security camera systems are not quite affordable and are, of course, a big help. Effective measures to catch burglars include taking pictures of your valuables and keeping a list of serial numbers. Pawn shops are required to keep records of who sells what to them, and they provide this information to us. Surprisingly, this is often the easiest way to catch them, unless they travel a significant distance to sell the stolen items. Story 30. I know a lot of folks here have said they don't worry about dogs or firearms. On the contrary, I lived a difficult life before I joined the Army and made some positive changes. I have signs around my house indicating that a military veteran lives there, as well as signs warning about protective dogs. I also have 2 large dogs that are trained for protection. They require careful handling even on walks, and I've had to reinforce my fencing significantly. Now, if my younger self saw my current self with visible tattoos, veteran license plates and stickers, frequently observing the neighborhood from the garage or front porch with other similarly appearing individuals, and a pair of dogs that are clearly very protective, my younger self would likely avoid this house. Also, I am usually home. Regarding weapons, for self-defense, it's important to be prepared and responsible. When not in immediate use, they should be stored securely. If someone attempted to enter my home right now, they would be facing 2 very large, protective dogs and a veteran prepared to defend his property. At this point in my life, I am more serious and less tolerant of threats to my safety and my home. I would not hesitate to defend my property and family. I believe that those who have a background or inclination towards violence may experience fewer confrontations, as I rarely encounter issues unless I actively seek them out. Story 31. Not a burglar here, but our home is part of a neighborhood where break-ins are ideal. I'm talking about huge houses that are secluded and in the middle of nowhere. Our neighbors aren't even visible from each property. I know for a fact every house on the street has had a burglary, but luckily we haven't. I think we have 2 main reasons for that. First, someone is almost always home. We have never taken a long vacation anywhere where everyone has left. Mother is also a stay-at-home mom. Second, my dog isn't the biggest, but he has very strong guard instincts. When the rest of the fam is asleep, he's constantly roaming the house. His favorite thing to do is to watch the outside, and if anything suspicious happens, he gets into a barking fit. My dog is a bit different from usual dogs. If he sees a stranger, he will act aggressively. He also instinctively knows the difference between a guest and a stranger, and I can see him acting hostile. I also have a beware of dog sign in my window. I think that helps. Story 32. Throwaway for privacy reasons. I have some experience entering homes without permission. The first thing I do is knock on the front door several times to make sure no one is there. Then I look for a way to get inside. Often I check the patio door. Many have a bar to prevent opening, but if it's not locked, I can usually use tools found outside to lift the bar and get in. It seems many people assume the bar alone is enough security. Funny story, a person I knew from school was posting pictures on social media of expensive things they own, like a smart TV, laptop, and phone. It was quite easy to find their address since they took photos in many locations. They posted that they were going to a friend's house, so I decided to go to their place. I took some of the things I wanted and left without incident. The next day, they found out and posted that they were leaving the state to stay with relatives. I then went back and took more of their belongings. Story 33. My father-in-law says there are usually 2 types of burglars, those who force their way into anything and professionals. I watched him secure a workshop trailer with boards and a bar. He mentioned putting a strong magnet on the bar so that it could only be removed by using a second strong magnet from the outside to lift it. I asked why go to all that trouble if someone could just break through it all. He replied, well, eventually someone will be able to break into anything. At least that magnet will confuse a professional for a while. Lol. Story 34. I've worked tons of burglaries. Most make entry via alleyways or the rear of a home. Normally, what people will do is knock on the door. If someone answers, they pretend they were looking for a friend and leave. If no one answers, depending on the home, they will normally go through the side gates in the backyard and look for an open window or door. If none exists, they will break a back window to gain access. 9 times out of 10, they leave via the front door to not look suspicious. Unlike what the other guy said, large, aggressive-looking dogs do deter people. Solid door frames and impact windows also work, as the noise caused by breaking in will normally alert neighbors. Loud, audible alarms are also another great deterrent. Don't waste time on silent alarms. If you live in an area with alleyways and have a wooden privacy fence, I'd hammer nails facing upwards into your property. Story 35. Our house has never been burglared, and I think it's because it's so messy. It sometimes looks like someone has already searched through it. Also, people probably know my parents are teachers, so there wouldn't be anything particularly valuable to steal. My family and I have traveled to France and Italy where car burglaries are known to happen. However, we haven't experienced this either, as our car is often cluttered when we're on vacation. Additionally, we always hide things like the car radio, handheld games, and the GPS, so any attempt to break in would likely be pointless. Story 36. Hi there, burglar here. First off, if you want to ward off burglars, first and foremost, don't lock your doors, don't hide your valuables, and don't put your credit cards and your bank statements in a secure location. Leave your door wide open when you leave for work. This will make burglars think they're walking into a trap and they won't go for the house every single time. And for added security, place all passwords on the fridge and leave your house empty between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. on weekends. Thank you. Yeah, nice try. Story 37. I sell alarms for a living. The number one thing that leads to a burglary that I see is unlocked doors. Alarms are great, but most people don't do their research. There are alarms out now that will set themselves automatically just by locking the door, the push of a button. If you have pets, don't get a motion sensor. It's a waste of money unless you lock them up when you leave. Cameras that are visible from windows are also great. Also make sure that you don't put that sign your friend gave you from an old one out. People can tell when you have a crap alarm. Story 38. I was working in the back of my house. My office is the last room. I didn't hear the door, but apparently I had left it unlocked. All of a sudden, I hear someone walking down the hall. We have old wooden floors. I grabbed my shotgun from my closet and turned towards the hall, holding the barrel down. There was a tall man in the hall walking towards me. He put his arms up and started to speak nervously. I told him loudly that he was lucky I didn't hurt him. I then told him to get out of my house and that if I ever saw him near it again, there would be serious consequences. I was very angry about the situation. I kept thinking about what if one of my family members had been there alone instead of me. And I should have called the police, but I didn't. A few years later, the same man came by asking if he could do some yard work in exchange for a few dollars. I paid him $20 to trim all the hedges around the house. And if any of these stories got to you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. I'll catch you in that video.